Okay, so first thing is, again, we're going to rationalize. Yesterday we were rationalizing a one-term denominator. If we rationalize a two-term denominator, it's a little different step, a little different procedure for what we want to do for these. Um, so when we're going for these with two terms, it's a lot like basically just doing multiplication type stuff because of how these things are set up. So it's not really anything. Um, I don't think that's really too bad when it comes off of it because of just how it's set up for this thing. So um, okay, so all you're going to do when we go through these, even though it says to rationalize, it's division, but it's not really division. You're actually going to multiply both the numerator and the denominator by the conjugates of the denominator. All right, does everybody remember what conjugate was? I know we did a little while back. Does everybody remember what we talked about with conjugate? Is that ringing bells? All right. So let's say if it was 1 plus the square root of 2. If they ask you to find the conjugate, anybody remember how to do that one? It's one little simple thing. Instead of 1 plus the square root of 2, the conjugate's going to be 1. There we go. 1 minus the square root of 2. So conjugate, all you got to do is just change that sign of whatever's in front of the radical for these. Because again, if we're talking about rationalizing denominators, we're talking about square roots in the denominator. So when we're talking about conjugate, that's just change your plus or minus sign. In front of the radical. We did this way back when with we're doing imaginary numbers. That we had imaginary numbers, we had to multiply by the conjugate on imaginary numbers. That one you changed the plus or minus sign that was in front of the radical. I mean, in front of the imaginary number, from the I term. For everything we're doing today with conjugates on this part with the radicals, you just change the sign of what's in front of the square root in this case, or third root or fourth root, whatever you do. Pretty much everything for these. When we're rationalizing denominators, I think everything should pretty much set up to be square roots, because if we go third roots or fourth roots or something else, it gets a little bit more complicated, gets a little longer. So we pretty much just stick to doing square roots here. Okay, so for the first one, let's do this. Let's go. It's 2 over. Let's do 1 minus the square root of 3. Okay, so if you've got 1 minus the square root of 3, we're going to multiply by 1 plus the square root of 3. And the only thing that you have to kind of remember is that in most of these cases, they're not going to put this denominator in parentheses, but you really want to think about it that when you're doing this one, that it's pretty much just distributive property on the top. The bottom part, we are going to do the full method. But again, the whole purpose of doing this one is that every time you do the conjugates, kind of like the last problem we were doing yesterday, anytime you apply the conjugates together, the radical is going to go away. And once the radical goes away, now we've got just a number, and it's a lot easier to work with just a number than it is to work with a radical. And that's what we're trying to do for these. Okay, top part. Now, for this one, just leave it as 2 times 1 plus the square root of 3. Not really going to worry about the top part just yet. All right, bottom part, we've got 1 times 1, which is 1. We've got, again, 1 square root of 3. Then we're going to have negative 1 square root of 3. And then minus 3 times 3, which would make that minus 9. Okay, and numerator. Don't even worry about the numerator for right now, because we'll worry about that in a little bit. So as we're working through these, again, the main thing is just to work with the bottom, because we'll come back and work with the top as we need to. And again, the good thing is that when you do this one, the plus minus radical in the middle should always knock itself out. So now you're left with 1 minus the square root of 9. Well, the square root of 9 is just 3. So on the bottom, you've got 1 minus 3, which is negative 2. All right. And by doing the conjugate, it always works out to be the exact same thing every time. It's always basically the first number squared, the second number squared, because we're doing 3 times 3 to make it 9. And then you just simplify that one, and then you get the number that you're looking for there. All right, now we get to bring in the top part, because now we've got 2 times 1 plus the square root of 3. What happens with the 2 over the negative 2 here? Yeah, you just cancel that out, right? So we can cancel out the 2 and the negative 2. Now, the negative's still there. So then final answer would be to put a negative there. And this is where you can have like a ton of different answers. You can just put that negative in front to make it negative. 1 plus the square root of 3. You could actually distribute out the negative to make it that. You could put the square root first to get that. So any one of these 3 answers should be okay. And Math Excel should be smart enough to figure out those answers. That's one of those that probably, that if you put any one of those 3 answers in, they've probably got some kind of multiple answer thing set on that one. So if any of those 3 answers show up, you'll be okay. All right, everybody okay with that one? Okay. Let's give you one more for sure, and then we'll see if we need another one after that, just to kind of see where we are. All right, so for example 2, let's go 4 minus the square root of 3. Okay, for the denominator, let's go with 3 plus. All right, so let's make it 4 minus square root of 3 over 3 plus 2 square root of 3. Okay, so again, all we're going to do is we're going to take the original problem we've got, and we're going to multiply by the conjugate of the denominator. So instead of 3 plus, it's going to be 3 minus 2 square root of 3. Okay, and with the numerator being 2 terms instead of being 1 term, it does make it a little bit longer. So what we're going to do on the bottom, we're going to go ahead and do the full shortcut down here. And again, the shortcut is, we know that the first term is going to be okay. The O and the I are going to cancel out. So really all we need is the first times the first. So we need 3 times 3 for 9. Then minus 2 square root of 3 times 2 square root of 3. So 2 times 2 is 4. 3 times 3 would be 9. So it makes it 9 minus, well, that's 4 times 3. So that's really 9 minus 12. So denominator really is just negative 3. Okay. And again, the great thing with the conjugates is that we do that because you get a shortcut when you do the full method. The O and the I knock each other out. So all you really have to do is just do 3 times 3, do the first times the first, do the last times the last, and then you get to simplify that from there. That way, we're always guaranteed with getting just a number on the denominator as we're going through what we're doing there. Okay, for the numerator, there's no shortcut on this one. You have to just do the full method. For that one, it's going to be 4 times 3, and then 4 times 2 square root of 3. So 4 times 3 is 12. 4 times negative 2 square root of 3 is negative 8 square root of 3. You can't see that, so I'll slide it up. There we go. Now you can see it. Okay, so 4 times 3 for 12, 4 times negative 2 for negative 8 square root of 3. Okay, and then for the square root of 3's, we've got negative square root of 3 times 3, so it's a negative 3 square root of 3. And then we got negative square root of 3 times negative 2 square root of 3, that's a positive 2. And then 3 times 3, 4, 9. Okay, and numerator, there's a lot to clean up on that one. The 12 is good. We've got negative 8 square root of 3 minus 3 square root of 3. That's negative 11 square root of 3. We've got 2 times the square root of 9. We know square root of 9 is 3, so 2 times 3 means that's a positive 6. So this becomes 18. 12 plus 6 minus 11 square root of 3. Okay, so putting all that together, we got negative 18 minus 11 square root of 3 on the top. Bottom came out to be negative 3. Again, here's one where you've got a bunch of different correct answers you could do with this one. And this is where I don't like Math Excel, because sometimes they have you split it up, sometimes they don't. That answer would be okay. If you did that answer on the test, I'd probably let that go and be okay. What they might actually do with Math Excel is they may take this answer and split it up into parts. So it's 18 over negative 3. And then minus 11 square root of 3 over negative 3. So that would be 18 over negative 3. That'd be negative 6. You got your negative over your negative 11 here. That would be 11 positive for that part over 3. So that could be an answer. This could be an answer. There's probably another one in between that you could do that one. So test-wise, that's probably one of those questions where more than likely it's going to be multiple choice, just to make that one that, there's going to be one correct answer. If your answer's not there, you just need to rearrange it, rework it a little bit just to kind of get it to where it needs to be, what it needs to be.